Don't be afraid. Hold on. You'll find your way.
Welcome to Growth Made Groovy, where we talk about everything from healing medicine music, working through life challenges,
and developing awareness and connections as we heal and grow along our journey. Hey everyone, I'm Caroline.
And I'm Noel.
Welcome to Growth Made Groovy. This is our first opportunity at our podcast, and we're so excited to be here. And we're not really sure what we're going to be talking about today, but we're just going to kind of go with the flow.
Yes, our topic is no topic, as Stuart Smalley did years back. But yeah, we've always got plenty to talk about. The reason why we're doing this podcast, starting off as a groupcast in our Facebook group, is because a lot of times the stuff that comes up between us and around us and through us and for us is when we communicate with each other, it really turns into something that can be of value more than just a conversation between the two of us. And so we're hoping that's the case. And if it is, we'll keep doing it. If it isn't,
we'll still keep doing it.
Wow, that's true too. Good point. So
so there's so many ideas around this, and now that I'm walking through my own, well, we're both walking through our own journey, but from my perspective, as I walk through my journey, it's like I share with Noel probably every day right now, which is, I don't know, anyway, but it's helpful, and he's my blessing, so things come up. I do a morning walk and something comes up and we talk about it, or something goes on during the day and we talk about it and how it affects both of us and how we both react or respond, or, whatever that looks like. And, over the past couple of years, we've through the music, like we started out with the music. And as we as we walked through the challenges that went on through the last couple of years to where we're both at right now, it expanded our music. And one of the things that we kind of talked about over the last couple of days is about fear and judgment. And I thought that would be like, that showed up big time for me over yesterday and today. And I just thought that might be something cool to talk about,
Yeah, no, that's basically been where I've been, not just on a daily basis, but an hourly, minutely basis, because I mean, the world is filled with judgment. I mean, it's all over the place. Social media, newscast, TV, radio, movie, whatever. But more importantly, it's in me, and I've been indoctrinated to that and taking that on for pretty much since I began to think and be able to process, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. And so more than likely you have too, whoever's listening to this, it's just part of our socialization and our way to feel better about ourselves and our lives when our lives feel out of control. Mm-hmm. The problem with it is that the judgment is coming straight from fear. And so what happens is that creates more fear, a la anxiety, different, ways to deal with that, and depression, stuff like that. So to me, the opposite of fear, or as it feels right, is love. And so what came to me a few weeks back is that the loving condition, which serves to quell the fearful condition of judgment, is compassion. And so let it begin with me. If I'm compassionate with myself, I will be compassionate with you. And so that's kind of the stuff that I've been literally, just all day, because it comes like this. Mm-hmm. And so at least, put your attention to, you could attend to the fear, or you could attend to the love. And so that's all I'm looking to do from this moment. And that's all we can control anyways. And so I know that you've had a lot of opportunities in the last couple of weeks to do that as well, Caroline.
Yeah. And it never ceases to amaze me how every day there's a little opportunity that shows up, and it's like when you started talking about that a couple of days ago or yesterday, I don't know, it all blends in together. So, you know how that goes. But what happened this morning, I was listening to Lisa Nichols, who I connect with like on so many different levels, because like a lot of her experiences are similar to mine, even though obviously they happen in a different place, they happen at different ages, but what I know about people is that like our feelings are all the same. Our stories are different, but the stories all lead back to the feelings anyway, you know? So what I've come to discover about myself, even just today, and that's interesting that Noel was using these words, anxious, depressed, all the, you know, the things that he said a few minutes ago, because I write a blog and I put all that information in that blog this morning, and I'm using these. I'm like, whoa, were you in my head when I was writing this thing? As usual. Yeah. So anyway, one of the things that I've figured out is like, because of her experience in school was that she was like a C student. And she was talking about how a lot of us are kinesthetic learners, which means, or, you know, like, what's the other word I like to use? Experiential learners.
Okay.
So
as opposed to what? So there's kinesthetic.
Yeah. So there's visual learners and
Visual.
auditory learners. So there's
Okay.
there's kids out there that if you're talking to them, they will look at you. That's how they learn what you know what you're talking about. But then you've got the kid where you're like, look at me, but they can't because they have to, because they're looking over here so they can hear what you're saying and they can understand what you're saying through their auditory. Most kids in school, the way she describes it, number one, are or not the way she describes it, that wasn't in there, but most kids are taught visually because we're not allowed to not look at the person talking to us. And that's how we learn from the beginning. And so, and most schools are not set up for auditory and kinesthetic learning. And so what happens is they teach like really, really, really fast. And so kinesthetic learners don't learn that fast. And I'm okay. And I realize, you know, I know this about myself. And then she starts to talk about how kinesthetic learners want to know the ins and outs of everything. We want to dig deep. We want to not just learn the surface information. We want to understand what we're learning. We want, you know, so when we're told we get a C because we didn't do the work the way it was explained to us, that's because we don't learn that way. And so then let's move into the not good enough. Then we start to feel not good enough. We can't get an A. We can't get an A. We're smart, but we can't get an A because that's not how we learn, you know? And so that led into the fact that who we are deep feeling, knowing people. And once we realize that about ourselves and know that the system, the school system isn't set up to work with that, then it turns that around. The challenge is that throughout the years, we've been taught that way and we don't feel good enough. So if we don't feel good enough, it leads, like you were saying, into anxiety and depression, and we can't keep up and we don't want to, you know, we don't want to, or we can't, we're afraid of life. We're afraid of being judged, like stepping.
That's the ultimate.
Right.
Yes.
And he's doing this, what we're doing now. This is the first time we're doing this. And heck yeah, I'm scared. Heck yeah, I feel like I'm going to be judged. And heck yeah, at this point, now that I understand that, I don't know if I care, you know, because I know that I'm not you. I'm not whoever's listening. So those are the pieces where we get to walk through and learn about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so I like what you said. I don't know if I care, because that's honest. Because more than likely you do, I do, we do. You know what I mean? It's hard to quote unquote not care. And sometimes that becomes a defense mechanism, right, that we could create going, I don't care, but we do.
Yeah,
so
but it's,
I can appreciate
that.
Learning
how not to care.
Well, because and this came to me a while back, is because it really doesn't matter. You know what I mean? And whatever matters is what, you know, is the most intense to us. And the only thing that matters to each individual human being is how we already feel about ourselves. And if it, you know, and our whole way of thinking, acting, feeling, believing in this world. And so then if somebody comes along and judges us in that way, it quote unquote matters. You know, we can't help but to care about that. And so
well, that's more subconscious though, right?
I mean, of course, but that's why I want to like say that regardless of that, all that we can control is what comes conscious. So once we're able to make the judgment coming from ourselves conscious, not even towards others, although that's the most obvious, but towards self, So either towards others or self, but especially when we make the conscious that I'm judging myself. Then I can add that in. I could add in the sentiment of compassion, which will then clear the judgment. I mean, that it's like a miracle cleansing. It's just a moment, but then you do it again and you do it again and it clears it. Go ahead.
No, I want to make sure everybody understands where we're coming from. I mean, just so you know, Noel is a licensed mental health counselor in Florida, and I am a spiritual life coach and mentor and teacher. And not only have we both been going through like our own journeys individually until we met, we went through a journey together, and we also help other people go through theirs. So we're coming from like a whole bunch of different angles, and both of us, even though we have our own, our own personal things sometimes where we don't agree, because nobody ever agrees every single time. What we do understand is that we want to understand ourselves so we can, I'm speaking for both of us, but you can change the wording if you want to. We want to understand ourselves so we can be there to support and understand others, where they're coming from, how they feel, what their fears are, how to, what we can do, how we can support, how we can be of service. So that's really what this is about. And he was like, I'll throw some things, because we're so used to talking with each other. It's like, I already know he's a therapist, so I'm going to throw something in. Well, isn't that subconscious? And then he's going to say, well, yeah, of course it is. And then there's this, da 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 da. And then he starts talking in therapy mode. And then it's like, who is this guy? Or who is this woman? Whatever. And I just wanted to make it clear that that's the background that we're coming from, from our own experiences and personal and professional experiences. So,
well, and that's why we wrote, and I can appreciate that. That's why we wrote, put it in the description of the group, actually, the Growth Made Groovy group, which right now is the only way to view our podcast. But we're doing that on purpose so we can actually build an actual group of people that can interact with each other in this way. Mm-hmm. But in the description, we talk about over 50 years of our own self-work, which to me is critical, because you can't do, to combine, you can't do that. You can't do it with just doing nothing. So, I mean, if you call it like reading a book one time 30 years ago or whatever, 25 or 10 or whatever, you wouldn't call that. So it's constant growth. It's constant internal. Again, one of my favorite expressions, it's in Al-Anon, one of the 12-step groups for families of alcoholic addiction, is let it begin with me. So let it begin with me. What am I doing? What's going on within me? More than what's going on in the world or what they're doing to me, even though that's usually what gets people to like look at something because it hurts, But what is it? What's going on with me? How am I treating myself? What am I doing with me? Because that is literally what I'm going to A, attract back, and B, put out, or vice versa, put out and then attract back.
Right. And that's 100%. And what I like to add to that is like, there's this underlying, that's where the subconscious part comes in, where there's these underlying emotions and feelings and experiences that we had when we were children, as we were growing up, that kind of run it becomes like, I do a little bit of you do too, but inner child work. I love doing inner child work, but it's not like the big stuff. It's just connecting with that little boy or girl and showing him or her how much, their love for myself and for other people, and being able to get underneath all of the stuff that shows up in our life. Like, oh my God, this person is, you're in some sort of a work relationship, and this person's attacking you and you don't know why they're attacking you, and Well, who is that little boy or girl inside of you that's feeling attacked, and why are you feeling attacked? That's the piece that we get to look at, to be that change that we want to see the world become. Because like what was the Al-Anon phrase? I've always gone with, I just use the start in your own backyard. It's like, when you see something going on around you, then how is it linked to your behavior? Because we attract what we are, or what we do, what we feel, the energies of it. It's something that can be
That's right.
healed, but we still attract it, you know.
Well, and that's what I say, and that's really the most important thing as far as relationships, obviously, and that's really critical. I mean, all kinds of relationships, significant others, children, parent to child, child to parent, colleagues, friends, neighbors, but even more so is how we treat ourselves is how we treat the world. um, so it gets confusing because the whole term of codependency, and I know we're going all over the place, but that's why this is our first one. We're just gonna get a good taste of it all.
Zone it in at
But
some
the
point.
term codependency is I want to take care of you out of the goodness of my heart. However, when I get depleted from doing that, that means it's not out of the goodness of my heart. It's something I'm trying to get back from you, which is to be needed, to be loved, to be seen, to be heard, to be, acknowledged, whatever the case may be. And if I choose to do that with you without your acknowledgement and you don't do that back to me, now I've got this dearth of, resentment and a void going within, which is where the treatment needs to be. And it only can become through me. To heal that. When I heal that, I help heal you because I don't try to fix you, rescue you, help you in a way that you don't need or want.
And you give that other, like we even had this talk last week. It's like by being open and non-codependent with somebody, you give that person the opportunity to see their own stuff and heal their own stuff when you communicate that, whatever it is, instead of saying, oh my God, I got to help you. But if you don't do what I want you to do or whatever it is, and then I'm going to be mad at you. Or you just say, hey, this is how I feel. And if it hurts you, then that means that there's something inside of, I'm speaking this way rather than this way. There's something inside of me that I'm responding to. And that's okay, because it gives me an opportunity to look at it, where if nothing comes up, nothing's being told, there's an assumption, there's an expectation, and then there's chaos. And then it's like, oh, this sucks, so I'm not fond of that piece of it. So, yeah. So I generally have my way of losing it, and, the other person has their way of losing it, and it's not pretty, but if it's open and honest and expressive in the feeling of things, then it's healing.
Yes.
That's healing work comes in. So
exactly. Yes. And that's all. And again, all we can do is do it one moment at a time, one interaction at a time, one negative thought, belief that we realize at a time. And then that's why, having compassion for ourselves along the process. Going back to your initial, the kid that's a kinesthetic learner that wasn't given to her strengths in your case, or in any kid, his or her strength, has this negative feedback that starts within themselves, which is, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough. And then that can literally last a lifetime. So the part that I've learned and continue to do is to try to heal that by loving that part that feels that way. Because all that little boy is trying to do is feel loved, to feel worthy. And if he or she wasn't given that, at least not directly, because kids really do need it directly. And it's hard for adults to remember that, because of life is always about this and that and that and this, and you know what I mean? And it's hard, just point direct. But once they get it directly, they're good. You know what I mean? They're good. Once a kid gets loved directly, gets acknowledged directly, he or she is good. Once if it's like still backwards and intimated, and then they still feel like something's wrong. And,
well, they're
the ones who are wrong, and it's not a conscious,
right. And that's so beautiful about talking about the way children are, because as children, it's like, if there's something wrong, all we have to do is give them the opportunity to feel it and release it. And then they're like, I feel this and I release it. And then it's like, oh, I'm ready to go play. Well, we don't do that because we're not used to that. We don't remember how to do that. So we take our stuff and we put it on them, trying to help them in the same way that we try to help each other. And it doesn't. It actually does the opposite for them.
That's why we need to begin with self, especially as parents. But we need to begin with self, because by healing what we might not have gotten, didn't get, whatever the case may be, didn't get that, by healing that in self, it will definitely be down to the next generation, you know what I mean? Be able to shift that and help that generation. But B, go up previous generations, because in that healing self, they are let off the hook for any wrongdoing. You know, again, another aspect of fear is blame, which is a more increased level or amped up judgment, right? And so if the antidote for judgment out of fear into love, if the antidote of love is a loving act of compassion, the antidote of blame is forgiveness. And what that does is, once I have that forgiveness for within me and others, I am free. I am let off that energy of that victim connection. And so that's the next level. You know what I mean? So we go from compassion to forgiveness and back again, you know.
Well, you just said the Ho'oponopono thing again.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
and
Forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I mean, that little 4-line statement.
yeah. And what's so cool about forgiveness is, you know, I mean, we've been taught a certain way to forgive in life, and that doesn't always work, because sometimes we don't feel that other person, it's not appropriate sometimes to forgive in the way we've been, in that particular way that we've been taught. And when we're still hurt, you got to kind of walk through the hurt, forgive at the same time, recognize the love, you got to do all of it at the same time. And that's why Ho'oponopono is so powerful. But what's interesting is that I don't remember when it happened. It was just like this switch flip thing. But I'm doing this work in forgiveness on the people in my life. And I'm like, I forgive you for blah, 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 blah. And I literally wrote this. There was a process that we did in one of the personal development courses I took that was called 70 times 7. And I literally wrote down, you know, first I wrote down in one, not that part. It was like, I feel angry because of blah, 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 blah. And it wasn't, it's like taking ownership for my feelings, not blaming the other person for that. Then the next part of it was the forgiveness. I forgive you for blah, blah, blah. And and something about taking it back only if I choose to. So as I did all that work, it turned it around to, wait a minute. How come, like, I'm the only person I haven't forgiven, you know? And I came to the point where I was like, so sad for that little girl, and nobody's ever forgiven her, and nobody's ever felt the need to forgive, and nobody's ever felt the need to apologize, and and so I'm turning it back on, and then I'm like, oh my God, the reason we forgive is not for them. The reason we forgive is so we get to heal. And when we heal energetically, like Noel was just saying in a similar way on the piece about the children, it's like when we forgive ourselves, it's not just how it expresses out into the world. It expresses, physically expresses out into the world. It also expresses out energetically. People start acting different in front of you. They start to treat you differently. And it's like, what? You know, and it's not always recognizable, and sometimes it's shocking, and then it's like, oh, that's what happened. You know, so it's a really cool learning experience when you walk through it, for sure.
Yeah, no, it's life altering in so many ways. And so again, and so to go back to our whole point, this is what Growth Made Groovy is. This is what Indivinity Productions is here for. Is what we're trying to do is to shift our own way of being from one of fear to one of love, and you know, and the various ways to say that, you know, because there's a lot of different ways to say it and the ways to express it. So like we have the music, you know, and different types of artistic endeavors, and we have different content pieces, ebooks that are coming out soon, and this quiz of, you know, connectivity, confidence and connectivity, and our challenge. And you know, we're going to be setting up, and we're going to be releasing this very shortly, so that, you know, it just as an active channel. So, you know, be the channel with which you seek. So, you know, to be this channel of helping people to find who they really are, to find that connection with themselves and the source of who they are. and
it gives,
in a deep way or in a, you know, whichever way, you know, that's what we want to give, like a menu of how deep, or, and I won't call it shallow, but whichever level you want to take it at, you know, or you're able to take it at, because we all have to start somewhere.
yeah, yeah. And what's really cool about like the quiz and the challenge, it's not, it's not something you have to do. It's something you choose to do. It's something that you get to do at your, wherever you're at, you know, to be meet yourself. Like the way we work is we meet people where they're at, with the work that we do. The way you get to do your work, and this is a part of self-love, believe it or not, is to meet yourself where you're at. I mean, accepting the fact that, holy crap, you know, maybe there is something here that I don't need to blame myself for, or I don't need to look down on myself for, or whatever. But, you know, you can take it as big as you want. Like he's saying, you can narrow it down and pinpoint and go in and, you know, do whatever you want with this. It's your life, you know, but, and having, I think that the biggest thing is having someone who is open to guiding, you, if that's what you want. I mean, for the first part of my life, I just did everything out of books and listening to, you know, audio and doing stuff like that. So I basically did self-healing. At times I would go to therapy. I never had a coach until, you know, most recently, but I was going to therapy many times in my life. So, so it's like everything helps, but here's the thing. And Noel expressed this, I think at the beginning, I think I heard him say, it's not a one and done. It is never a one and done. This is a journey. This is something where you take that first step, you learn that first thing, you walk through that first roadblock or whatever it is. You be brave. You do the best you can at being brave. I have a phrase that I've used for many years. It's like my mantra now. It's be willing, be courageous, be free. And I absolutely want that for you, because if at some point we are probably going to go in a little bit of our own stories at the beginning or whatever, and where we were at. And I don't want to do that now because we don't have a whole lot of time, because it might take a little bit, but it's like, we didn't just show up, here we are, we know everything, and, you know, and we're going to help you and you're going to love it. And that's not what this is about. This is about the real and raw about our journeys, and how you can connect in some way, possibly, with what we've been through. So you don't have to do it the long, hard way that we have done. I mean, just even knowing each other over the last couple of years, that was probably the fastest growth that I'd like to speak for the fastest growth that we've had in our lifetimes with each other as we went through everything. And, having these experiences and these opportunities and these situations and things that came up, and how we walked through them, and sometimes how we ran into the brick walls and with each other and with ourselves. And yeah. So if you don't have to do that because of our experience, then that's what I hope.
Well, and that is a loving sentiment, and I agree with that, what Caroline's saying. And I will say this: even if you are going through all that, it helps to have somebody that can, you know, you can feel something that, oh, they get me, or, oh, I get them, or whatever, this connection. Because more likely than not, you are going through something, because, I mean, we probably could have said that at any time or space, you know what I mean, along the continuum. But at this time, I would say in the last, year to two, we've all gone through some stuff here, major transitions, and things that we didn't want to do or didn't want to look at are now right in our face. So, so it's a wonderful opportunity. So that's what we're here to do. We're here to serve. I think this is an excellent episode 1. Maybe it's a pilot, I don't know, but well, I mean, I've enjoyed it, and I hope you have too. And we're going to continue to do this and put it out there, and also we always, whichever way you can give us feedback, we're going to start opening up the group. Probably already be open by the time we put this out there. But we want you to definitely give the feedback, anything that's helpful, that's not helpful, that's critical, because again, there's discernment.
Constructive criticism.
Yeah, there's discernment or there's judgment. Judgment is I'm giving it to you so that it may hurt you, it may not, but I feel better. Constructive or discernment is, it's not about you feeling better or not. I just want to give you some feedback that's helpful, including the hard stuff. And so that's what we're here open to. So please do.
And that's okay too, because that's where
Yes.
you're at. And if you're at that space, then maybe that's something that gets to be discovered, so
yes,
it's all good.
That's what we're here for. So thank you for being a part of this Growth Made Groovy. And until the next one, much love, and we'll see you soon.
Have a beautiful day.